The other day I showed y'all my new to me rifle. This is a 1960 Winchester Model 70 Featherweight in 270. And I talked about some things I had planned with it as far as setting it up and putting it up against a new Winchester. A little competition between the two, so to speak. Well, before I do anything, I need to clean it. I need to really go through and check everything out, clean it. And I assured the previous owner that his rifle, it would be well taken care of. And I intend to make sure it is. And again, that brings us right back to cleaning. And I've gotten a lot of questions from many of y'all about cleaning rifles and caring for them. Did a video in the past. Well, this one being an older rifle, I thought some of y'all might find this interesting, the approach I take with it versus a newer rifle. And the biggest difference is just in caring for the stock. The newer rifles have polyurethane finishes on them, whereas this has a sprayed lacquer finish. And the Winchester Model 70s, they've had a sprayed lacquer finish since day one, since they went into production in 1935. So these were never an oil finish. And an oil finish, it's easier to get rid of scratches in an oil finished stock. With the lacquer finish, what I've got here, I want to put furniture wax on it, some actual paste wax. And I don't want the wax on the stock itself. I want it to fill in the scratches. And there are a few little scratches and so forth. This rifle is in excellent shape, but there's little minor nicks and dings just from use over the years that you really can't see on the camera. That's one thing I'm learning about these cameras. They don't show up everything. I've noticed I look about 5 years younger on video than I do actually. So I'm kind of glad they don't show up everything. But there are a few little scuff marks and so forth on the stock. So anyway, we're just going to clean up everything. We're going to clean the barrel, break it all down, and hopefully, some of y'all will just enjoy seeing the process here. We're going to start by removing the action screws and separating the action from the stock. And for this part, you want to make sure you use a good screwdriver. Hollow ground's about the best you can get as far as for this. And you don't want it slipping and marring the screw heads, the metal there. And that's why you need to make sure you have a screwdriver that fits and a good screwdriver. And on this particular rifle, I can see these screws look to be in really good shape. So if the action ever had been removed, somebody did a really good job doing it. They used the correct screwdriver. And this action appears to be in just excellent condition underneath, just as I thought it would be. But you never really know with these old rifles until you take them apart. I mean, just bottom line. So any old rifle, you want to inspect every detail on it, just to know what you got, to make sure it's safe, make sure there's no pitting, cracks, things like that. And on the stock, I can see some years of it being oiled, the top part, and then you end up with oil in the wood. Well, that's not good for the wood. And that's something a lot of people don't understand. The oil that you use to wipe your rifle down, the metal parts, you don't want it on the wood. All right, it's not good for it. The things you use for the wood are very different than what you should use for the metal. So we're going to clean this up, wipe everything down good, and then we'll get it all back together shortly. One of the things Winchester did on the featherweights, just to save weight, everywhere they could, they drilled some large, deep holes in the end of the stock here, in the butt, underneath the recoil pad. And it was just neat seeing those here. And this is a really lightweight stock. This front sling swivel's got just a little bit of rust in it, and it's not wanting to break loose, and there's a little metal washer holding it in place. So we're going to put just a shot of WD-40 in there. But I want to get rid of any excess because I don't want that in the wood. All right, that front sling stud did not want to break loose, but we finally got it. There we go. And I'm glad we took that out too. There is a lot of crud in there, and it needed cleaning. All right, we've removed all of the metal components from the stock, and now we're just going to wipe the wood down really good with some warm water and Dawn dish detergent. And I'm just taking a little paper towel here and just dampening the end. We're not trying to soak anything, and all we want to do is just remove the oil and gunk that's built up over the years on the stock. That's it. We're not trying to cover up anything or fix anything. We're just removing years of debris from the checkering and things like that. And we're going to wipe things down with a dry paper towel as we go. And you can use a microfiber towel too. For me, it's just easier on this part just to use a damp paper towel. And you can also use denatured alcohol. A lot of people say use it, but dish detergent is made to cut grease, and that's all we're trying to do here is just remove the grease and the gunk, the oils that have built up on it. And depending on the rifle, if you've got a lot of gunk inside the checkering, you can take a Q-tip, get a little warm water and soap and really get down in those cracks to get any gunk that's built up over the years out of there. This stock is looking much better after just wiping it down. And that's all you want to do, even with the polyurethane finish. Just wipe it down with some warm water, a couple drops of Dawn dish detergent. You're getting rid of the gunk and grime in it and oil. And now that we've got it clean, I'm going to go over it with some Johnson paste wax. And this is what I use for furniture, antiques, and so forth. And it's really good stuff as far as for filling in scratches, basically. And then just bringing out the sheen and whatever finish is left on an old stock like this. And even if you have a stock with polyurethane, if you've got some exposed wood from scratches and things like that, go over it with a little paste wax and it'll help protect it somewhat. The wax is soft, it's not permanent, but it will help protect it and keep moisture out and so forth, and it's going to make it look a lot better as well. And for this, I'm just using a microfiber cloth. They do make some colored waxes. This is clear. The advantage to the colored waxes, You know, if you've got brown pigments and so forth, you don't have to worry about wax building up in the pores of the wood if you've got exposed pores. This built up in any pores, and it would give it a white look in those pores. And I'll probably get some wax with pigments in it later on, just to have on hand. But for the initial cleaning, this is fine. Paste wax is also really good for your oil finished stocks. And now I just want to rub everything down really good with a clean microfiber cloth, just to get any excess off. And then what I put on, it'll stay in the scratches and any places, you know, little skint marks and so forth. And that stock is clean and looking pretty good for a 60-year-old stock. Now we want to clean up any crud on the sling studs. Yeah, these were pretty bad. We're going to put just a little WD-40 on this rear sling stud also. Just it's got some rust and gunk on it, just to help break some of that loose. Same for the wood screws for the butt plate. Now we can start to put this back together. There's no use in having any more parts laying around than I need. Fortunately, the bottom of the receiver and barrel, the parts you don't normally see, they're just almost in perfect condition. So that's going to make this part really easy. So all I'm going to do is just remove the bolts here and just wipe everything down real well. And what I'm using to wipe it down, I've got a microfiber cloth that I use just to wipe my guns down. So there's some mineral oil in here, but very, very little. I'm not even really coating these surfaces. I'm just wiping them down and cleaning them more than anything. You might say dusting, because the mineral oil that's on here, this is what you don't want, you know, soaking into your wooden stock. So I'm just going to give everything a quick wipe down and inspection, and that's the big things, the inspection. And I want to make sure I wipe down anywhere my hands touched, like underneath the barrel, that I'm not going to be able to get to from the top side once it's all assembled. So I mean, I can hold it here, this end, no problem. But I'll be able to get to this and clean it up when I'm done. Well, I've got this bottom metal off. Let's go ahead and wipe it down too. The magazine spring and follower. Everything looks good, so we're ready to put this back together. And she is back together. And all I need to do now is wipe down this bolt, but I am going to take the claw extractor off. I'm not going to take the bolt apart, but I will take this claw extractor off and we'll clean it up. And that's one thing a lot of people tend to miss, is wiping down the back side of the claw extractor. Now let's put this back on. And these claw extractors just pop right off, but they're always easier getting off than they are getting them back on. And that is a clean rifle, but I have just one more thing to do. I need to clean the barrel. And I've said before, those of us that are really into accuracy, we could do a PhD dissertation on barrel cleaning. We complicate this stuff. Well, This video is running long enough now, so I'm going to keep this one really simple. And don't worry, we're going to talk more about barrel cleaning in the future. But on this particular rifle, I'm getting ready to start load testing, and I want to start with a clean barrel. And I have no idea how many rounds have gone through this rifle. I have no idea how much fouling's in here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with just a wire brush and some hops number 9 or hoppies, and I'm going to run it through 10 or 12 times. And keep in mind, I am not trying to turn this into a brand new barrel. I'm not trying to strip out all of the copper fouling. In fact, I want some copper fouling in it. It's going to shoot better with it. All right, so I'm just trying to knock off the high spots that may have built up. So that's all we're trying to do right now. And if this rifle just absolutely will not shoot, at some point in the future, I may look at more aggressive options. Right, but keep in mind, more aggressive options for removing copper also work on the steel. And this particular rifle, this rifle's got some age on it, and I have no idea how much life this barrel has left in it. So I don't want to do anything that is not necessary to this barrel. All I want it to do is shoot great. And we're not having a beauty contest for the inside of the barrel. All right, it doesn't have to look brand hammer new. All rifle has to do is shoot great. So I never want to use a more aggressive option than is absolutely necessary to get it to shoot. All right, and what we're going to do here, 9 times out of 10, this is it. This is all you need to do to knock down the high spots to get one to shoot. So I'm going to start with, I've got a wire brush here. I'm going to put a patch on it, wrap it around it. It's plain square cotton patch in this case. I'm going to use this bore guide, and I'm also going to set the rifle like this. Okay, I made my stand here so that, you know, I've got a little channel on the end for the barrel to drop down in. That way it's pointing downward. And the reasoning for the bore guide, and this is not necessary, okay, but the reasoning for it is because when I put this in here, and then when I put the cleaning rod through, right, this is going to keep solvent from dripping down into my magazine and my trigger. And if you get enough solvent and stuff over the years dripping down in there, eventually it just makes a mess. All right, gums up, it's just a mess. Well, we don't want that. And by the rifle pointing downward like it is, anything that runs out, what's going to run this way, whereas if I had it turned backwards, everything would run backwards and then, you know, just work its way down into the magazine and so forth. Again, that's not where we want it, especially after we just got through cleaning all that. And the reasoning for the little patch on the wire brush, this is not necessary either. It just helps hold solvent, which, you know, your brush will hold enough, but this just helps with that. And I've also noticed that as the wire brush comes out of the end of the barrel, when those bristles flick up, when it comes out, it can make a little bit of a mess. It just kind of sprays stuff everywhere. And we're in my shop, so I'm not too concerned, but inside the house, I don't want it just, you know, spraying, you know, dirty solvent everywhere. You know, carbon in it and everything else. So that helps with that. And again, I'm just going to run this through here 10 or 12 times, knock off the high spots. And that should have it. And I've got drops of solvent on my bench here, and that's fine, but that's just what I was talking about as far as, you know, you don't want things running this way into the rifle. So now we're going to pull this wire brush off. We're going to put a 527 caliber brass cleaning jag on here. And I really like these little round patches for this part. These are a good fit in these smaller bore rifles. We're just going to stick that on the end of the jag. Three drops of Hoppy's number 9. And we're just going to keep going until they come out clean. And your patches are going to be discolored, I mean, just from the solvent on it and running through the barrel. But you'll notice when they come out clean versus your first patch that you run through, that's, you know, it's going to be dirty. And this barrel's already pretty clean, so just not a lot to do here. Matter of fact, at this point, I'll just take my patch and I'll flip it over to the clean side and run it through. That last patch was pretty clean, so now we're just going to use a dry patch. We're going to run it through. And we're going to use one more dry one just to really finish it off. This rifle is clean and this is ready for use. And I think Mr. Howard would approve of that cleaning. And just real quick, this is a field grade rifle. All right, so there's dings and bumps and scratches and so forth. They don't show up on the camera. This rifle's been used, and when you actually look at it, you see it. And I had no problem with that. I mean, it's still in excellent shape. But if you have a museum grade firearm or something extremely rare, extremely valuable, that's not necessarily how you would want to clean it. All right, then you would want to really consult with a professional on something like that. All right, but for a field grade rifle, that's about as good as you're going to do on a cleaning. And real quick channel news. The other day when we talked, last video, I said a couple of things that they were kind of misleading, or at least I thought they were after I went back and watched it. But we'll just say I had a lot on my mind and I just wasn't thinking clearly. All right, when I talked about the challenge between this Winchester and the Westerner, the new versus the old, let me say up front, I had no intention of ever getting rid of this one. I mean, just straight up, it's not going anywhere. Basically, what the challenge is going to be is to see whether or not I end up keeping the Westerner, depending on how it does, and which one of them ends up in the 4-gun set. And one other thing that when I went back and watched that video that just really sounded misleading was I mentioned, you know, I don't need two 270s, and I talked about minimalism and needing to get rid of one. I don't have two 270s. I still have the Ruger number 1 and the M70 skeleton stock. So I really do not need another 270 right now. But that sounded misleading in the video, and I promise that was not my intent. Well, just I had a lot on my mind that day. Okay, now for the competition between the two. We're fixing to start picking some loads. And the loads we're going to use aren't necessarily would be my first choice. Just with the availability of powder and shortages and components, we're just going to work with what we got and see how it comes out. I mean, that's all we can do right now. And also for those of you that are thinking about a new scope anytime soon, I know the scopes aren't nearly as readily available as they were a year ago. That one kind of surprised me. Some are, but then some aren't. So just keep that in mind if you're thinking about a new scope anytime soon. All right, hey, if you enjoyed the video, hit the thumbs up. If you didn't, hit it anyway. Let YouTube know you like hunting and shooting videos. And if you want to see how all this comes together, hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. God bless. Have a good day.